This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, and then collect as many as we can, recycle them, and use them again next year, and keep buying because they're pretty expensive. $1.29 a piece. But start at least.
Yeah.
So.
All right, I might be 30 seconds ahead, but the time being, I'd like to call this town board meeting to order. Let's stand and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I didn't, but you can have that one Emily, if you want. It's okay. It's okay.
Agenda?
No.
I'm like, is this a power play? I'm like, you can just have one. I was pretty going with the flow.
Excuse me, got that phone?
Right away.
Can I use your phone?
2 days.
What's your code?
2 days, and I actually had to.
I'll put that away before you
Just
start.
have the wrong people
That's right.
talking.
All right, so I need a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of May 2nd, which we did receive right after the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Rick, seconded by Jason. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. No one opposed, so carried. Emily, I think this first item you put up, you wanted to have a quick discussion on Election Day. Because it is one of our recognized holidays.
And primarily, I think the reason it's a recognized holiday for the town, because it's not a national holiday or a state holiday or anything like that, is because voting takes place in the town hall. So there was a conflict with office space, conflict with traffic, parking, all those things. So we gave our town employees that day off. And now that the election is going to be at the Shiver Youth Center, how do we want to handle that?
For me personally, certainly I feel it's too late to say yes or no in this current year. Moving forward, I'm not convinced, I guess I shouldn't be so blunt, but I'm not convinced Shipman Youth Center will
Is the right
continue to
space,
be
yeah.
the space. I mean, not throwing you under the bus, but numerous people have talked to me about the condition of the whole building with storage in there. I'm not saying parking it isn't a better spot, but realistically, I don't believe it's gonna work. It's a narrow, long building, so moving the number of people, maybe it's gonna work out, I hope so. I wasn't involved at all, and I'm guessing none of you were involved in the decision to move it. Apparently it came just from the Board of Elections. I'm gonna try to get an update on what that process was, but in any case, I think for this year, leave this election day, a paid day off in place, and we're gonna have to assess it after this coming election.
I wouldn't be opposed to just keeping it in general and kind of setting the standard. It should be anyway.
Yeah, and that's part of the discussion too, is like maybe we're just being really progressive here, guys, and we're recognizing the fact that election day should be for a holiday, like it should be a national holiday.
Sure.
We're making
More
it a
voting, yeah.
municipal holiday.
I see it as.
How long does it take you to move?
Well, me personally, when you talk to me, you get into, you leave, it's about 45 minutes.
Is it in any of the contracts?
It is,
It's in our personnel policy, right?
Okay,
yes,
so not in the union contract?
yes, it is. It's one of the
Okay.
union,
So we just can't
right.
eliminate it.
That's why I say it's kind of,
And then the other idea that Kathy had brought up was, well, maybe you could make it a float, like it just as like another added benefit to increase our benefits package to draw in employees. Because maybe people don't want to take a full day off on election day, but they still appreciate that paid day off. And they could use it if they needed it. So like, I mean, so like if they needed it because let's say Kathy, who doesn't vote here because she lives somewhere else, you know, maybe she needs half a day on
Right.
election day to vote, but then she wants to come in for the second half. She still has that benefit of the float.
agreed.
We'll probably be looking down the road more at PTO time as there's
Yes, which I actually think everything should just be PTO.
Yeah.
All right. This next item, I'm excited to have some conversation about. we have Linda Beers, Essex County Head of our Public Health. And between Dick, of course, that's been in the medical industry for years, and Rick Preston, I'm looking forward to some good talk for the public as a whole, just to hear where we're at with Adirondack Health, our ER, and the future. So I think with that being said, Linda, why don't I turn things over to you, and you can basically give the people online and here just a brief acknowledgement of where we're at.
Sure. Thanks for having me here today. So this came about, as you know, all of this started with the closure of AMC, that I've been extremely upfront. Equally, I was not notified any more than you were notified. I actually met with them and had a community health assessment that we do every 3 years. And they sat and they gave us a plan for the next 3 years, which included, it was done in last year, which included this year and the next year. And they never once talked about the closure of that. And when I called them out on that, they were like, well, didn't you see it in the newspaper? And I was like, gee whiz, that's not how I thought you were supposed to notify me. So, I mean, I only say that as a preface that I was equally unhappy. And equally, I have a different way of, I went through the state and whatnot and voiced my concern that, and through Andy and I've had rapport with them on multiple levels, especially certainly during COVID. So I start that in solidarity that I think that they were not transparent. I know that through lots of the board of supervisors, as well as your board, I think you really did call attention to the State Department of Health. I think you are understanding and what this means. So a certificate of need is issued when any medical practice is opened or closed, and what you're really requesting is for them to close their CON, and that the state has yet to do that, and that's why they're still practicing there. I learned more that day than I had known. I was privy to be on that meeting with the Department of Health, AMC, and that informed you as well as me that day as to why they were leaving or closing. I think I made it really clear that, I have pulled up the newspapers clippings of when they cut the ribbon on your beautiful center just before and said how it was state of the art and it was going to change everything and thank you for the funding and this is great. And then what they were saying in that, it was the handwriting's been on the wall. We knew this wasn't going to work for 5 years. And my thought was, well, then why did you move it? Why didn't you stop it then, right? So lots of questions come from that. But honestly, I don't know that I can update you any more with that. I have not heard anything more about keeping the ER. I believe that they have their submission into the state of New York. I think the State Department of Health has heard your concerns, but I will tell you, right, that they're closing ERs all over the place, and that at the end of the day, if it's not sustainable, the state of New York is going to put that in perspective. And I don't have anything, I voiced my concern about doing it, but they're going to be programmatic about it and really look at the data, I think, and do that. So in reference to AMC and the ER, that is all I have. I fought really hard not to get the dental clinic closed, and I have some updates about that that I can share with you. So then fast forward to a letter that was poorly written and poorly given. How about that? That entered, I think it came to you, Mr. Doty, that a letter of support for opening your ER that you haven't even closed yet, which was like, what? That's inappropriate, right? So there came to me and told me about it, and we have great rapport with Hudson Headwaters. We work with them honestly all the time, as we do with Elizabethtown Community Hospital, ECH. And I called Tucker Slingerland, he is the CEO, and I mean within 24 hours, he got back to me and said, Linda, you're right, this didn't go right. And he set up a call with me and said, let's talk this over. So that started my correspondence with you guys to say, this is what they want to do. And then they revamped their letter of support. They're not even pushing that letter of support at this moment in time. So really what that is is if your emergency room goes and the certificate of need is withdrawn and the AMC gives it up and they walk out of it, you will have that building. Hudson Headwaters would love to use that emergency room space to make it a primary care setting in Lake Placid, a Hudson Headwaters primary care space in Lake Placid. I can only tell you that that makes my heart very happy. I mean, if we can't have an ER, I'd rather not have more yoga space and have a primary care practice if you were going to ask, right? That is something I would really, really want. And we desperately need. It's also an FQHC, which means it's a federally qualified health center. It is sustained differently than AMC. They're subsidized and they have longevity and all of that. And then they also chartered and required to take care of, regardless of payment, all of our people, right? So maybe, the newly settled immigrants or J1s or anybody that walks in through the door that Lake Placid often has a lot of.
Hey,
So
Linda,
go ahead.
Linda, sorry, can you say what they are again, that abbreviation?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. Hudson Headwaters is what's called the FQHC. You can look it up. So the state of New York, no, all over the country, federally qualified health centers are medical practices that are subsidized by the government. They're usually were set up in inner cities and places where Medicaid was really probably the number one payer, and no private practice would ever go in because there's not enough money for them to make a business on. There really isn't. Medicaid pays really, really low, and that population often doesn't follow through. There's lots of missed visits, blah, blah, blah. Hudson Headwaters, Dr. Ruggie started it honestly in Warrensburg. He came here and there was no primary care, very little throughout most of our region. And he went to New York State. He said, I believe I can boost this up as people really starting to live here. And so he went to New York State and he created Hudson Headwaters. It started in the Warrensburg, Warren County area, and it's really been expanding there all the way up into Clinton County. They have many practices, and as you're aware, they just recently took over your pediatric practice, or the one that was in Saranac Lake. I think what maybe you didn't understand, nor did I, which is a really unique scenario. Hudson Headwaters was looking for space, and they went to Adirondack Medical Center, and they said, I need space for primary care. And Adirondack Medical Center gave them space in their building for primary care, as well as Adirondack Medical Center has their own primary care there, which is unique. I don't know that downstate in a mall or like in a medical practice mall, you wouldn't find several providers in one area. But up here, that's a really kind of unique situation. So after talking to Tracy Mills, CEO and assistant CEO, and Tucker Slingerland, the CEO, really quickly they expanded. They have over 8,000 patients at the AMC office. Many of them Lake Placid, Essex County residents, because that's technically in Franklin County. They have reached the capacity and AMC will not expand them anymore. You can't go in the parking lot. There's not enough parking. There's nowhere to go in that building. And AMC is using all of the other, space for their own hospital and their own practice, so there wasn't any more. They tried and looked at expansion in Saranac Lake. They were going to take over, you're probably more familiar, the old pizza parlor and a pizza place and another building next to it. They wanted $1 million for each of them, and they were complete tear downs and would have had to been rebuilt. And at the end, the site visit just said, yeah, that's just a lot of money. And to be right there without the space they still really wanted with parking and stuff. So fast forward, the potential closure of the ER, the space that would be there, the emergency room office is all set up, and most of the infrastructure needed for their primary care. So they're saying they would like to come in that space when you close it. I will tell you, they're still looking for space. They're not saying they have to. So if you don't want to do that, they'll find space if they build it themselves, and it'll probably be in Franklin County. And they're still looking, right? So I don't want you to feel like you're, being forced into anything. I think personally, it's a great marriage if the ER is going away. I'm sure you could fill the space with lots of things, to be fair. I'm sure you could get another orthopedic doctor. I'm sure you could do all kinds of things. I'm telling you from a public health point of view, that doesn't serve our population, everybody. And so, you know, they did talk about, you guys sent me questions and they answered them. And they talked about, I'm from Hudson Head, sorry. They also said repeatedly, they'd be happy to meet with you. They'll meet with you anytime. You can have them on your next board meeting Zoom and grill them and ask them any questions. I did ask them if they would do an urgent care. I think, Richard, you asked about that, and rightly so. I asked about that. It's a hugely different staffing pattern requiring different level of care and doctors, and they aren't. It says here, urgent care is challenging to staff with volume is low and unpredictable. We currently have urgent cares in Warrensburg and Glens Falls, if that's helpful for context. It's very difficult to operate an urgent care in a small community as the volume is so varied, which is what they, you know. However, we do hope to offer same-day access to primary care, which is a model that has worked well for us in all other areas. So having same-day access, having the ability to go in, and honestly, if AMC's data is accurate, they showed that the majority of visits that went to that ER were not emergency room, if I recall their data. They could have been served by a primary care practice that had accessibility. If they always keep openings and they don't fill up all their slots and they allow same-day walk-ins, I think it could serve anyway. Also know because it's an FQHC, they don't turn anybody away ever because they're not insured, which other places can by law. So that's my spiel. I'm welcome to take any questions.
Linda, first and foremost, thank you for your advocacy on our behalf with both the ER and particularly the dental clinic. You were heard loud and clear, unfortunately.
So let me tell you about that. So I had a conversation because that's one of the reasons I called Tucker Fingerland to begin with, because I was begging him to go into your space and into that space. And so you heard what AMC said. I heard what they wrote. I heard what they said that day. I heard that one of the reasons they closed was financial, $350,000. We could have mustered that, right? That seemed like a very petty amount of money. I know it's not, but I'm just saying in the scheme of medical stuff, that's not a lot of money. Two, they said that they couldn't hire a dental hygienist. You remember that? They'd worked and they couldn't find a dental hygienist. And I don't know if there was a third one. Anyway, I spoke with Hudson Headwaters. They were very candid. And I'm like, did you go up there? Tucker said, Linda, I went up there myself. I begged them to stay. And really at the end, the dentist wouldn't stay. And I'm like, so you didn't do the practice? And he said, I don't think you understand. A practice is the dentist. You can't buy a practice, a dental practice, in hopes that a dentist will come. They were telling me that they've cultivated over like 2 years getting one more dentist for their practice in Warrensburg, which is they have a big dental clinic, and they have one. And if I get it right, I believe they just hired a new dentist from Utah who wants to work for a federally qualified health center, who knows what mountains are, wants to live up here. And I will tell you that they promised it won't meet all of your needs, but it does meet our county's needs. They're going to open up a partial clinic in the Ticonderoga Health Center. So it may not be in Lake Placid, but it will be in Essex County, and they will serve our Medicaid population. No offense, folks, the rest of us can go to another dentist. People with Medicaid can only go to a specific dentist, and that's one of them. So was the practice there. So in closing of that, I think, yeah, well, in closing, I think that if the dentist wouldn't stay, then nobody was ever, then we were never able to keep that practice open.
With the partial clinic opening in Ticonderoga, does that take care of all of the need that was in the Lake Placid clinic? No.
So first off, they reported, I've asked for this data and I've yet to get it. They've never provided me. They said they had 2,000 patients. That's not, so again, I tell you what I would have teased out of their And what's important to me, people that don't have Medicaid dental practices, dentists can go to any dentist. Many
Mhm.
dentists will take your other health insurance, right? If you're not insured, but you were paying cash for a dentist, you can go to one of those. But people that only, and all the kids that have United Healthcare, the Fidelis, which are really Medicaid plans for dental, they can only go to that dentist. That is the only one that will take their insurance. I would like to hope that they stop taking people that have private insurance and fill this one with the only one they can get. So the answer to your question is I don't know the answer to it. I can tell you they'll be filled overnight. I know that anybody even with an abscess tooth is waiting 4 months, even at Hudson Headwaters. They're taking names right now. And the only way you get on back in or into the practice if somebody passes away or somebody drops off their list because they are at their capacity in Lawrenceburg. So that's the only one we have serving this county. There was one in Plattsburgh, and I'm not sure they're even taking Medicaid. And there was one at Alice Hyde, and when I called her just to call, the lady bit my head off and she said, "Stop calling me from Essex County. We're not taking you." So anyway, it's a real big need. So will it fill everybody? No, I don't know that it will meet everybody's need, but that didn't meet everybody's need either, to be fair.
So back to primary care, Linda. I was sort of miffed by the fact that they wanted to put a practice in Lake Placid, Hudson Headwaters, and that Adirondack Health was somewhat going along with it. But then got thinking, Hudson Headwaters and Adirondack Health coexist in Tupper Lake, Saranac Lake, and so why not Lake Placid?
Yeah. They do in
So-
Plattsburgh as well with several other organizations.
So it's not so unique. I just worry about, yes, there'll be same day visits, but you do have to be a patient of Hudson Headwaters for,
They can sign you up right then and there.
right, so I think it's a win if we lose the ER.
I'm sorry, can you just identify? I can't tell who's talking.
Oh, Rick Preston, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Thank you so much.
No,
Yes, those are all great points.
There's a group of us on the table here. We know it's not Emily talking, that's all.
Yeah,
Hopefully not.
that's right. So Linda, I have a question for you too. So with Rick took all my thunder, of course, like he usually does. So in the fact that, so if indeed, and that was a discussion we've had earlier, previously, is the fact that if you have to be a patient of Hudson Headwaters. However, with them being federally qualified, they have to take any insurance. There's nothing but they still have to be a patient. Now that kind of contradicts it a little bit to me, you know.
So I will tell you this. I live in Scroon Lake. We have weekenders that come up all the time, right? Or people that are maybe summer residents or whatever. They all go to Hudson Headwaters. I had one of my cousins came up and they poked something in their eye and I took them to Hudson Headwaters and they saw them. They gave them their insurance, they enrolled them in whatever, and they saw them that day. And it saved us from going. These are great questions that I honestly can't answer and I don't want to misspeak. But if, I really propose they're willing to come chat with you. I think it's a great question to ask. And maybe
Right.
they've changed their model, Dick, to meet your needs if that's what you want.
Well, then I think maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. Then I think it's better than I thought. So if an individual comes in from out of state, not a patient of Hudson Headwaters, and has a concern, I won't say emergency, but a concern, and there are slots available for that day for them to get in, may take a few hours or whatever, to get them in. So then what you're saying is, I think I misunderstood you, so they can be enrolled as a Hudson Headwaters patient, even though it's a one-shot deal.
Because maybe they're coming back tomorrow for a recheck, right? I mean, I
Okay, so,
imagine
okay.
Hudson Headwaters, yeah. Again, I don't want to misspeak. That is
No,
my
no.
understanding, especially if you are
Okay.
insured, right? I'm going to say if you're anybody in our county or in New York State, they can't turn you away at all for no insurance, which could
Right.
be, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so that's a plus because I think we have some of that happening. And they'll work really hard to get you. They have facilitated enrollers in their offices to get you covered by. So even if somebody came in from, well, out of state would be a problem, but anywhere in our state and they
Right.
walked in their doors, they could get them medical coverage, which is really always the long.
Okay, then that serves my idea, that serves my purpose. You know, I mean, and my only other point is
Let
previously.
me make sure that's accurate though. I don't want to misspeak.
No, and I understand that, but that's the thing. My other point is previously, the primary care center, the health center in Lake Placid, I want to say many months ago, less than a year ago, said that they would put on their primary care practice, the health center in Lake Placid, they said they would put aside X number of appointments per day available to, again, walk-ins or whatever. And it never really happened. So that's my
Well,
only concern,
Yeah,
you know.
well, so Hudson Headwaters has that model everywhere, just so you know. In
Okay,
every one of their practices, it won't be unique to you. They always do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Okay.
the way they're designed. They are made to be that way, to meet people where they're at because of their designation as a federally qualified health center. Maybe it's in
Right.
their charter that they must. But on the other note, you're talking about AMC. AMC said they were going to do all of those things when they closed the ER. That's what I understood them to say. Okay. Well, we
No,
haven't closed
actually, they were going, I got this firsthand. They were going to open a walk-in clinic and they had it all set up and everything in Lake Placid. And at the last minute, they had staffed and everything. And I don't know the reason for not doing it, but I know it was going to be done because I got it from people that were assigned to that program. At the last minute, I mean, less than 24 hours before it's going to start, they yanked it. So that's.
I have no knowledge. Yeah, I can't answer. I
No,
don't
just
know.
just giving that knowledge. So
Yeah,
that's my
thank
point.
you.
I think for efficiency, I think what we're finding that there's going to be lots of questions. And Linda, if you don't mind, I'll work with you and we'll organize a Zoom call or even an invitation for Hudson Headwaters to come here. Hopefully sometime within the next month, let's say, because I'm excited about more primary care, and I'm also interested in hearing about their projected hub that they'd like to build in this area. And quite possibly, it could be an Essex County venture. So,
Sounds great to
and
me.
huge thanks, Linda. I think we've given Lauren Yates plenty to write about in the enterprise here already. So in the interest of moving this meeting along, I'm going to say thank you. We're going to pick it up and continue what I call transparency for everyone in the area to address this health issue.
Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Linda.
Thank you.
All right, so certainly I'm sure it's all right with all of you. I'll follow through and see when they might be available,
Please do.
whether it would be a special meeting or the first topic on next month's meeting. But either way, I think it's moving ahead to the betterment of everyone.
Yeah, and I don't think, if they're willing to meet before our next meeting, I think we can easily make it a special meeting. And I would say, since there's a lot of public interest in it though, I would try to do it more at the 5 o'clock time frame.
Right.
Instead of the
Out of
daytime.
work hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to our MOU between the town and Roost as it applies to occupancy tax money. MJ was good enough to work with us and draft this. We've all had a chance to review it. I don't know if you want to go over the basics again, but it's a pretty basic document that actually lets us rely on the expertise of Bruce through the relief committee, with the added ability of the town board to recognize percentages that we'd like to use for grants versus maybe capital projects. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's the essence of this MOU. If there is no, well, certainly if there's further discussion, let's get into it. I am prepared to sign this agreement tonight.
My only discussion point was about timeline, because as we were talking about when the next allocation will come in. And
Yes,
so when do we decide where the percentages that it gets split, or to just all go to one? And I'm looking at Andrea too, because maybe she has an idea about this. So like if it all goes to Bruce and then we have to have a discussion about percentages, are we having that before it's going or after it's going?
Well, so.
Depends on how much she holds on to it. I'm just kidding.
So I think what might be most beneficial is once the check comes and you see the amount, you can say, okay, let's put X amount into the town fund, the projects, and then X amount into the lead.
Okay.
And we did have a meeting with Karen Meister, who is our bookkeeper, and then John Hutlinger, who is our CFO, both contracted positions, on how to split that up so that, you know, it would be in designated different accounts. And they said that they can do that in QuickBooks, and then if they saw that it should physically be in another checking account, that they could do that as well. But let's just start simply by having it in, you know, different designated in QuickBooks.
yeah.
So one account, but just from an accounting standpoint, differentiated, makes sense.
That won't mess with the timeline, leaf timeline, will it?
No, I think the conversation will probably boil down to this. And basically, I think Dick might have brought this up. Maybe we want to reorganize the grant session to be once a year now instead of twice a year. What do we typically do? A winter one and a spring one?
So the first, the next one
September and
closes
May.
in September, and then the second one closes in February.
Yeah. And so I think we need to work our way through this, because Emily and I just talked about when I will hear from the county what the allocation is, and it's gonna be in June. I expect a finance report from Michael Diskin before the 20th. That's when our next finance committee is. You may even get the figures before I do. So it's a work in progress. I'm not concerned at all about the allocations as a group. We'll figure it out. If we get $750,000, we may likely say $250,000's going to LEAF, and we're gonna stick $500,000 aside and carry it down the road and then decide for the next round. It's not a complicated process, or at least I don't envision it being.
The numbers don't seem as, they're important, but as the process, it seems that like partnership with Bruce and the town seems to be kind of like at its apex, it's the best. We are aware of what's coming in and differentiating.
We're getting the benefit of a LEAF committee that assesses every grant application that comes in. We don't have the time to do that. We don't have the expertise.
Yeah, so you just said it's not complicated, but the reason it's not complicated is because LEAF has taken the time
Exactly.
to work out all those kinks.
In my mind, it's not complicated because they're taking care of it.
And we have the oversight too.
And
so
they've
that's
proven
perfect.
themselves.
Yeah.
What are we, in year 3 already? Well, 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my only question. And so maybe after every allocation, there's at the next town workshop, we look at the numbers, and maybe we even look at like the last round of LEAF funding and see what the requests were and see what we think is an appropriate amount to set aside for LEAF, knowing what the typical asks are.
Sure.
And we had spoken earlier about when we would review it, the contract
Mhm.
on an annual basis. I think it's going to be reviewed every time we get an allocation.
Well, sure.
So,
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
That's-
Informally, we're,
right,
yeah, for
right.
sure.
So,
So any other concerns?
no,
I'll make it easy on you so you don't have to sit to the end of this meeting. Why don't I sign it right now? And I think you drew this up so that Jim signs it instead of you.
Yes, Jim will
Okay.
sign it. And this was actually our attorney in this item.
ChatGPT.
Derek, we gotta work on you, how to keep a crowd.
Yeah.
But I'm
They get their money's worth, don't get me wrong.
I'm assuming you want a motion.
He puts on a show, like,
Yes,
proud.
we need a motion.
Yes. All right, I'll accept a motion to accept the MOU on occupancy tax with Roost.
So moved.
Moved by Jason, second.
I can't do both.
Emily, yeah, your turn. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. No one opposed? Dick, did you raise your hand?
No, I did not. We're good.
Okay.
Raise both of them.
Yes, you got two.
He's not in competitive mode, he has to be at the table. When he's president, then we fight over the motions and seconds.
All right. We're back to Rick's favorite.
I'll be glad to
Yeah.
get this off my computer.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, by the way, because I've had extensive conversations over 2 years, and so I'd like you to brought it home.
And I know you'll give us realistic timelines of what makes sense right now, what
Sure.
doesn't, and what we can continue on.
Well, I think I had on the last page is sort of a wrap up with, if you've got the review in front of you. By the way, this is on the water bill filling stations. Did a pretty comprehensive review, met with several stakeholders as well as individuals who have fill stations, and also spoke with the corporation who designs this model, and we got more information on their freeze resistant unit, which if our frost line goes below 2 feet, it doesn't work. So we'll be like Lake George on those units, and we'll just take them in for the winter. But the initial phase, what the proposal is, and again, it's depends upon the budget, but first floor of the town hall as a trial. Every floor would like one. I met with everybody on each floor, and everybody would like one. Replace the drinking fountains, which nobody uses because of the taste, and replace it with a bottle fill. But for now, replace the first floor or install one on the first floor, which there is a spot for it. Terry showed me where he took the old unit out. These are refrigerated, they're filtered. And as a trial, so that people can try it and taste it and make sure that it's okay. And if we would like to have it tested for lead, we can certainly do that. Parking lots, in speaking with the village, looking at 2 to begin with, and that's at the main parking lot where the bathrooms are, and then the what I call the NBT lot, or across from NBT where the bathrooms are there. Brad sees no problem in installing them on the side of the building there.
Like at where the bathrooms are.
Correct.
So that the heat of the building could make it year round?
Probably not.
Okay, so a valve to turn it
Yeah.
on, okay.
But
Anything outdoors is probably not going to be useless.
the problem is if you get the freestanding units, your price almost doubles those, and they're not filtered.
Yeah.
And they're not refrigerated.
So it makes no sense for
Right.
us.
One of the recommendations from the school was get them refrigerated, get them filtered.
Or they just won't be used.
They won't be used,
Because
right?
there's one at SPAC, it's a freestanding one, but unless you want to pay $10 for water.
Yeah.
you'll use it.
Okay. So first floor of the town hall, the 2 parking lots, horse show grounds. Butch thought that it would be a good idea to put it near the VIP area for 2 purposes. Number one, it's easy access. It has water and drainage. And also, it would set a good example for our summer program. And the
Just
kids,
right there.
and the kids are used to it. The kids are used to carrying vessels for filling, so.
It's standard at school now.
So that would certainly help out there. And then the lacrosse fields, Derek, you and I spoke, and we're looking at putting a freestanding unit there. There is a freestanding unit that has refrigeration, but
Where, Rick?
yes,
Where did you?
Lacrosse fields.
lacrosse fields and pickleball, volleyball. So covering all three of those.
And if the freestanding doesn't make sense, I'm not opposed to one that would hook on the side of our new building that's going up there.
Okay.
So it could be turned off and easier maintenance.
Yep. Yeah, the gentleman from North Carolina he said they, all over the place, they just shut them off, drain them, and they're fine.
Yeah.
They suggest covering them, but anyhow. I put in this report, the filters, they're high capacity, they're 3,000 gallon capacity, and they're about $70 each if you buy them by the 12 pack. Looked into Emily mentioned that there already is one at the beach
That doesn't work.
that they're looking into. The filter's never been changed, from what I understand.
You know, it goes from,
So
especially at school, it goes from like rushing out to
to
like
dribbling.
dribbling, and then it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I actually don't even think I went in there last summer because it was just pointless.
Yeah. So Butch is looking into that, and nobody knows who bought it, the village or the town, and nobody knows who's responsible. So Butch is looking into it, and we'll make sure that it'll be
So
That'll be
updated.
heavily used.
Yeah, and my
I can tell you the
suggestion,
town did not buy it.
okay,
I can tell you the town didn't buy it.
okay.
what'd she say?
Town did not.
Oh,
The suggestion would be to perhaps put a sign up. I spoke with Terry. Of course, he probably won't be the cleaner this year, but whoever it is, the building gets opened up between 6 and 6:30, and it gets closed about 7. So having a sign that says fill station with an arrow perhaps will increase capacity rather than putting another one on the outside, and contingent upon whether that thing can flow properly.
Especially with $70 a filter. Just from having conversations with the custodial staff, it will be initially expensive because the filters, we will have to replace them frequently. And but from what I understand, as the upgrades to the water plant that the village is doing the engineering for, I think they're getting closer to. Once the new filters are put in, I think we'll have to replace the filters less, once the water.
okay. So the probability is that the beach may very well need a new unit.
Awesome.
Possibly.
Okay.
And that would be on a priority list.
2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 6 units right there. At a basic price of what?
About $2,100 if you average them out.
Okay.
Those are for refrigerated, filtered units.
Do you see this as a logical funding from our
Change.
COVID relief money?
Oh, no,
No?
this is tourism enhancement.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
we're becoming a greener community. We're offering water filling stations to people who are visiting.
And Haley and I emailed back and forth. We didn't speak, but there are several grants out there that she's very confident that will cover about 50%, but they're reimbursement grants.
So we
So,
spend it and then,
correct, get reimbursed.
Sorry, in rethinking that, I would slide the one in the town hall over to ARPA, and then the rest.
The
I think,
rest.
can be North Alba community funds.
Yeah.
Because the town hall one, that's a stretch. The other ones are
Yes.
very open to the public, open to everyone. as
even
well.
as we close the Iron Man.
Everything. Her bathroom.
Maybe close for Iron Man.
Close them off. We don't open them up. That's your point.
No, but reading the grant, it's reimbursement, but
First floor.
Haley mentioned that we could leverage the money to make it go further as well. If we didn't need to if we didn't want it the 50%, get 50% back, we can use that extra 50% to leverage more.
Very much so, and it's a rolling, from what I understand, a rolling grant that she's looking at. So it's one grant application, buy 6 units this year and 4 the next, and it applies.
Perfect. And then we can always identify additional spaces as they become more apparent.
Can you track, you must be able to because of the filters, right? How often they're used?
Yes.
So we'll know like the high, I mean, there might be even a case where we're like, well, let's move it somewhere else because it's not getting used.
It actually has a counter of how many bottles are saved.
Yeah, so
And
if it's an extremely low number, then
Yeah.
obviously it's being utilized.
And the price, you'll see the prices vary, and in the narrative, it explains it, but the ones that will be out in the open, like on the 2 buildings, horse show, there's a theft protection on them, and they're also push button as versus sensory.
Yeah.
Some kid comes walking up, sticks his water bottle in there and goes home, and the water runs all night.
So the button is a time lapse thing or?
Well, no, you have to hold it in.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, and believe it or not, those are more expensive than the sensors.
but they make sense.
So we'll do a sensor here in the town hall.
Yeah. So how do you want to move forward?
Well, I'm sorry, the town hall, the one you're suggesting, just starting on the first floor to see
Well,
how it goes?
Somewhere in the town hall, because there is concern about the water quality.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whether, and then after, you're saying after we test, it would be advantageous to test it probably before, because if you have a filter, how much does that filter really come up?
And I mentioned that, and the suggestion was, if you want to open that up, go ahead.
All right, fair enough. All right. Yeah.
Rick, can I ask a question?
Sure.
On the water fill stations, how tall of a, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, how tall of a bottle can you fill with those? Like, are they short? Like, can you do a 12 ounce, a 20 ounce, a 30 ounce?
I have a 64 ounce at school and it still fits underneath. Sometimes I have to take it out and put it back in, but
Because
yeah.
of the sensor.
Because of the sensor, yeah.
Okay,
They're very tall.
thank you.
You're saying going forward as far as funding is concerned or the
Or
locations?
ordering. I mean, because we'll need to find personnel to hook these things up over time. It'd be nice to have half a dozen.
Ready,
Yeah.
for when someone has some time. And so who installs them, not the company?
Correct. And that was the downside, is that the closest certified reps for this particular company is Montreal.
Rick, I got a question for you. So, as in anything else, any product or anything, what is the availability of these units?
That I don't know.
I
believe
mean, we could be talking right now and say, oh yeah, we want,
Yep.
we want them, we want to do them. We'll take 6, we'll take 1, whatever, how long? And they could come back and say, well, we could have it for you a year from now.
Right.
You just don't
And,
know anymore.
I didn't get into that, but the other thing I didn't get into is Burl is the primary company, and they just took over another company that sells these units. So they're sort of a monopoly in the business. But there are other dealers on the service and on the installation. The gentleman from Burl's said that 95% of their customers install them themselves.
Custodians at the elevator.
Does that affect the warranty?
Service them themselves.
What's the next closest distributor to Montreal, if you know it?
East Syracuse.
Oh, I mean,
Everybody.
nothing against getting anything from Canada, but you are dealing with international. And,
Correct.
Syracuse is right there almost not necessarily equidistant, but close. So, you know,
But they were very robust, online, visual repairs. Again, most people will call their technicians, they'll talk them through repairs, or they have videos online. It's,
Other than a sensor going bad, we're talking about a water line. I mean,
Right.
this isn't rocket science. Yeah.
But I do, we waited like what is it, a year for the trucks for highway?
Yeah.
Maybe we waited 6 months for these, but these are only, for a fraction of the cost.
I can certainly, that would be my next step, is that looking at pricing as well as availability.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because, I mean, if we want, I mean, Rick, I agree with, start with one, see how it works and everything like that. But if availability is low, we probably should look at saying, okay, we'll take whatever and hope for the best.
Right.
No, I think we should ask for the 6 priority locations, but in the town hall, it's just on the first floor. That's like the one trial space is only on the
Yes.
first floor to see how the water
Yes.
tastes.
And, the village, of course, the village owns 2 of those, so
And then,
I did send this to Art and Jackie.
Mayor Devlin is on board he has his idea about wanting it in its park, and you had mentioned in your narrative about but he and Brad are kind of sorting that out.
Right, okay.
But we would purchase them on behalf of the village. You're not asking if the village buy them.
No, the additional request from
Because if
the
you
student was
use
in the
occupancy
village.
tax
Is that what you're
It's
saying?
common.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we're using the occupancy tax money,
Correct.
then
Then
it's village.
it's village, yeah,
Oh, you mean
Right.
the bathroom ones?
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was saying use occupancy tax money for 5 of them, and then
Yes.
the one use use
Okay.
our funds.
Oh,
So I'll do that this week.
fantastic.
Right after you water the flowers.
I was hoping they'd get water, but I guess not.
Yeah.
It
It's
was
coming
brief.
tonight. I keep saying that. I've been watching my flowers wilt. It's coming.
All right,
Grasper.
very good. Let's move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Motion?
Oh gosh, I just hit something.
Yes.
This is why I watch Bloomberg. Bloomberg News in the morning.
Can anyone
Did somebody walk off with a freestanding unit?
Hold on, let this-
Problem.
Oh, no, what are you doing?
Are you still there?
Marty, Mary, Laura.
Can you hear me?
It's tricky tonight.
I'm still here. This is Laura.
Just watched a little TV on your behalf.
Yes, I know.
Oh, it sounded exciting.
It's like we're in a meeting.
Are you making a motion to order the water
Uh,
bottles?
You want to take it?
Does that need to be a motion?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I think it would be good to give it back to the student, and then she, as part of her presentation too, that we have a motion, it's in the minutes.
I'll tell you, I have no problem either way. If you guys would like the protection of a motion to order these things,
Yeah, really.
And it can go in the form of 5, did you say 5? From
Occupancy tax.
occupancy and 1 from ARPA.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna come up with some better names for those funds.
There you
I'll
Yeah.
pass out some ideas. I don't
Think
know, like you
A long acronym.
go.
I'll come up with something.
All right.
Did you make the motion? Are we gonna make the motion?
Yep, Rick did.
Sure. Second.
All right, any further discussion? Not allowing, okay, all in favor? Aye, no one's opposed, carried. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Let's have I guess, a short, quick discussion on Lake Patrol. We have 2 applicants, as you're aware. I guess maybe we should talk about whether we need an interview committee.
I'm happy to sit on that interview committee because I'm so good at it. as everybody knows.
That's it.
Oh my gosh, no, don't. Somebody else.
Let's, do either of you gentlemen want to sit on it? Or I'm happy to as well, so, whatever. I mean,
I know
I'm
how,
here every day, she's here every day.
I know how happy people are waiting the whole entire workday for me to be done, so I'm okay if I step aside.
All right,
Dick, any interest?
And I actually think it's really only one interview.
I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I gladly will do it.
all right.
Why do you say only one?
Did you read the resumes?
Oh, yeah.
You think it's worth two? Okay.
Well, the thing is, it's a very small amount of time. But once I have an interview committee, I'll let you two decide on one or two interviews. And we're starting probably a little later than normal, so you have some leeway on what we're gonna spend and what we expect. But we did categorize what we're looking for that person. All I'd like to add to the conversation tonight, and it won't come into play until next season, but I had a conversation with the county sheriff. And he is very interested in supplying partial or potentially all of the service next year on a county level with deputies. They have a boat. He didn't really, he'd like to talk about it further. But
It wouldn't be every day though.
no, it'd be a certain number of days a week.
Yeah, anything adds to.
Maybe all we'd like them for is, his only problem was coverage on weekends because of all the events in the county and needing coverage at those. So maybe it would be a combination, but that could be a scenario where we have actual law enforcement on the lake, which kind of replaces DEC's responsibility, along with our own being educational. So it might be the best combination yet. But for right now, if Emily and Dick would tackle this and figure out if one of these applicants is available, I don't see any problem with them using our boat. We can get signage if you want. That's up to this board. But anyway, are you back this weekend, Dick?
I'll be back Monday afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, Tuesday morning you can get it.
Yeah, and after 10 a.m., when's your retiree day start?
What's that? Say it again?
Because it like to be early in the morning. And can I ask the people to meet on Wednesday morning though?
Yeah, Wednesday, that's fine. I have to work Thursday. That's the only day I can't do it. Thursday's the only time I can't.
Can you do two early mornings in a row?
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we've got that in gear. Let's talk briefly about the proposed Verizon lease. Cassandra from Verizon has been in discussion with me for months, probably 8 months now. And just recently, I let you all know that Verizon has an interest in our production well area of Raybrook, not the tank area on Mackenzie Pond Road. I sent you all Verizon standard proposal, at which time I sent that proposal to Mark Shackner and his group. They have responded on suggestions and following through in continuing talks with Verizon. We can't get into that because it's contractual tonight. But Dick, I have a copy for you, paper copy.
Okay.
You
I was
expect
looking
no.
for it in my inbox. It wasn't there.
It's on a pigeon.
Yeah.
It's flying your
Yeah.
way now.
Yeah.
We can address it as soon as department head workshop, if you like, in an executive session, or hold a special one, but they can't do anything on that lot anyway until we're done with production wells, fencing gets put up, and there are access rights that we need to discuss and so on. So I'm not worried about a timeline on this. So I'll have this sent to you by email, Dick. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So anyway, that's really just an update where we're at.
Great. It's not 5G, is it?
It's what?
It's not 5G. You know what 5G is. That's a
Well,
list of different.
T-Mobile?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're gonna bring COVID back in here.
So anyway, it is exciting.
Falling on a TV.
You know, there are basic concerns that we'll all have as far as like an increase in payments over time. They're looking for a 25-year lease. For a standard payment for 25 years, I don't think any of you would go with. But anyway, we'll tackle all those concerns at a later date. I am in need of a resolution to accept the Department of Transportation airport project. We've okayed all aspects of this. It is the AWAS project, really just a formality. Let's see. I can send this around, but like I say, it's nothing but a cover page that acknowledges our acceptance of that AWAS project. Is there any questions around it? It's just a typical resolution for all of our projects at the airport.
Yeah, it says project number
Yeah,
and DOT contact number.
and,
Same as all the others.
yeah, and this goes to you, the file.
Well, yeah, I changed it because the dates are wrong.
Okay.
I'll move to accept it.
Motion by Rick, second by Jason. No further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Carried. Should I just give you this?
I have it right
Okay.
here, yeah. Chelsea did it, so I'll have it correct.
Next on the list, it's really not that I need a resolution. I would just like a notice that we have accepted the low bidder for our paving bids to Luck Brothers. It was in the bid price of $77,850. It is for materials, it is for labor only. We don't have a set date yet for that paving project, but Ken typically tries to schedule things between, is it the
This-
half marathon and Ironman?
This Sunday and
And
Ironman.
Ironman.
That does not include Aaron and Patrick.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes. yep. In fact, in your packet, you should have gotten the schedule of Chipmunk Lane, Cobble Hill Road, Johnson Ave.
It's after, right after this.
That's just labor, so it's not delivery. He plans on
That's right,
getting the big, what
the
do they call it?
roll off,
Yeah.
yeah, for the Lodge Road.
Right.
And of course, we've gone over all of this in work sessions. There was considerable difference between low bid and high bid. The range was $77,850 that was awarded, all the way up to $112,580. So we feel very fortunate in the bid we accepted. And we're looking for another successful paving season. Let's hope the weather cooperates and we can get a lot done before Ironman.
And Ken did go back to Luck Brothers and make sure that the specifications were the same, so, because of the discrepancy in the bids. That's for those that don't realize that.
With that being said, I'll take a motion to accept the highway bid.
So,
Moved by Emily,
second.
seconded by Rick. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. No one opposed, carried. Rick, would this be as convenient a time for you to talk about to stay on highway instead of committee
Yes.
reports?
So we discussed this during the workshop, and we need a motion or a resolution for Ken to put the dump truck actually is already on Auctions International, so it's getting bids. I spoke with Ken this afternoon just to make sure that I had the correct truck. And so the motion would read, make a motion to allow Ken Porter, Highway Supervisor, apply a $50,000 reserve on the 2015 Volvo dump truck on Auctions International. Also give Ken Porter permission to negotiate with a potential buyer to a minimum price of $45,000. So the way Auctions International works is that you have to negotiate with the high bidder. So if a bidder comes in under the reserve, they still have to negotiate with them. So we'd allow Ken to go to as low as $45,000 for that 2015 model. So I believe, Dick, you've spoken with Ken, and he took your suggestion of going one at a time, starting with the probably the least favorable,
Right,
the older.
15, yeah.
So that'll give us an idea, the flavor for what the 2016 might bring. So I went on to their website today and went down that rabbit hole. Holy goodness, there are a
Everything,
lot.
everything.
I actually found some stuff I wanted.
Facebook Marketplace.
But anyhow, so if
If you want, you can bid on the 15. Go ahead.
can you see me driving that thing around town?
And he's not gonna buy that with a flower watering money.
So I don't know. Did you get the motion?
No, but can you send
Yep.
that to me?
Sure. That's all yours.
Resolution.
So safe to say both our highway liaisons support this?
Yes.
Okay. So that's in the form of a motion. Who seconds? Jason seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. No one opposed, carried. Thanks, Rick. I guess you're still on deck here, brother.
Ambulance.
Yeah, Rick presented with us with a report from Lake Placid Volunteer Ambulance Service. And I think I'll let you pick what aspects of it you'd like to report on. And I don't know, I guess where the guys are at in relation to what's going on at the hospital, because that's the basic driving factor.
That's going to be somewhat of a linchpin in the whole
Yeah.
process, but this review and a 2-year plan was sort of in the works for quite a while. Just for clarity, transparency, I sit on the executive board of the ambulance, along with 3 other individuals. And the ambulance was extremely grateful for the town's budgeted I'll call it a contribution. It came at a very timely point in the budgeting process where we were really struggling to meet payroll. And for clarity, Lake Placid Volunteer Ambulance Service, it used to be a 100% volunteer organization. We now have single-digit percentage of volunteers. So it's a paid organization. So that 2002 review and the 2-year plan, I would just direct you towards the goals through 2025 in that report. And probably one of the more urgent ones that we'll be discussing a little bit more is taking this process of a volunteer organization, and it is a business now. And we're going to be looking to hire a director of this business in the near future to operate it as a business. So, but let me know if you have any questions on these goals. The goals revolve around sustainability without tapping into the village and the town a great deal. There will be some requests for funding, but not to the extent that we originally thought.
It
So
seems appropriate that both the village and town contribute on some level.
we had that discussion and I'm sure Derek would address this, but putting it in the same context as the fire district, which is a percentage.
For sure. I'm sure your direction in hiring a director will probably prove better efficiencies, both in billing and sustainability and acquiring. Oh, sorry about that. Thought I muted it, but in any respect, it wouldn't surprise me that even though you think 1 year will prove that position, I'm more than comfortable given more time to prove a system, because there'll be tremendous anxiety and pressure on a small organization to prove themselves. And I know from my short experience working with the county systems and knowing how we operate, that we are still in a very fortunate situation and that it is affordable. Yes, if we have to cough up $50,000 to $100,000 for a life-saving first responder system like the ambulance service, we are by far ahead of what many small towns are paying for similar service. I mean, there are towns in the county that are paying $300,000 and might have 15 to 40 calls in a year. We have 100 a month, is that, say, 1,200 a year?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think it was like 1,100 something or whatever. Anyway,
And the time that you're talking about also is with the unstable nature with the ER closing and how the funds are tied to that.
That's
huge questions.
And we've looked at a model, how we can cover, because there is considerable turnaround time. Adirondack Health, when they gave their the conference that we had, the WebEx or Zoom or whatever, gave a number for a turnaround time. And that's if you UPS it. In other words, you arrive, you put the package on the doorstep and you leave. That's not the way it works. And if that's the only ER plus the dental, I think that's a component that's been left out. If you eliminate dentists, where's your next place people go with a toothache? They go to the ER. So it sort of bottlenecks up an ER a little bit. So there's a lot of turnaround and wait time. So anyhow, I don't want to get it.
Well, I think the overall message though is that this board is very supportive.
Yeah, and that's very much appreciated by the members.
Certainly, Rick, just because you're on the board, I don't want you to think that you're the only one invited to represent you. The board is always welcome here, whether it's to present how things are going or just as an invited guest.
And Dick, I apologize for leaving you somewhat out of the loop. I know you're the other representative, so.
I'll catch up with you.
Okay.
Let's move on to budget adjustments. Kathy, I see you're still with us. Do you want to chime in?
Hi. So yes, I do. I emailed them all to everybody. I also put them in the box. Did everybody get them?
Yes.
I have them on my computer. Should I go get them on the phone?
Look, I can bail you out.
No, they're the same. They're the same. So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory as usual, but I did want to point out that we're paying off the bond that we issued earlier this year for the 2 tandem trucks. And we had discussed that before I went on vacation. So I just wanted to make sure that you're all still on board with that.
Very much so. Did you get all the information you needed? regarding that
Yeah,
process?
so it's, I guess very simply, I contacted, Adirondack Bank and asked about paying it off, calling the bond. And she asked me why, and I said, well, we're just, we want to save the interest. We have the money available to pay it off. And she said, okay, she remembered that we had talked about that when we first talked about issuing the bond. So it was basically cut and dried. They just needed to get the number. The interest amount that's there is assuming that the payment is received by Adirondack Bank tomorrow. So we'll cut the check, get Derek to sign it, and take it right up. And then, in addition to that, Mike Orticelli asked me for the board's approval for their new program that they want to use in place of the IPS program that is currently with BAS. I don't know if you remember, but
Yeah.
okay, so at the workshop, y'all basically said, hey, it sounds like a great idea. Darcy was, explaining a bit about it. I don't have any more information than what Darcy presented at the workshop, but Mike said they would like to get the ball rolling. They need the board's approval. The implementation cost has been quoted to them at $6,000. So that would be something that we would have to pay up front. And the program is called Cloud Permit, and they believe that it's a $20,000 annual subscription cost.
Emily, do you see the lack of short-term rental component a showstopper?
No, no.
I thought we were going to chat about this.
Because
I saw the email.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know we were gonna be asked to make a decision about it.
I didn't either.
You
So
guys
it's
don't have to make a decision. Mike was just requesting that I bring it to you guys. If you say no tonight, then the next opportunity is in July.
Well, we can move, like, the end of June, we can do that.
Yeah, we can do it at workshop. Yeah, I think we're still in charge of moving forward. It's nice of Mike to sneak that in there, but we'll take care of it when it's time.
I like how you spoke for him too. It's very kind of you.
I did ask Mike if he was going to be on the call. He said no. I was like, okay, I'll make a note to ask him about it. So I asked.
Yep, very good.
Make sure your budget your last 10 minutes to his cost.
So are there any other questions regarding the budget amendments that are official for tonight?
Wait, so Kathy, though I do have one question, which maybe was answered in Britt's email, but I don't think it was. What do we pay annually for our current software system?
The BAS, under $3,000.
So we're going from
3,020.
to a
But that
which-
program is something that, Emily, it's the same program that was there when you were in the office.
Yeah, I remember it.
Right,
It was-
that's how old it is.
I'm not saying I was old.
Well, maybe when you were there, it wasn't old, but now it is. It's been what, 6 years, 7 years?
Longer than that.
Okay, well, I was trying to be kind.
Yeah, that's an old system.
She meant it.
Anyway, we'll follow through with that, Kathy.
And then, of course, so once you approve the budget adjustments, it's the audits. And then there's personnel actions as well, which is not on the board meeting agenda, but I emailed those all to you as well. So I would just ask that you all approve those at the same time.
You're talking about personnel actions?
Yes, the seasonal
Yeah.
employees for Craigwood and the youth commission, and there's 3 listed for lifeguarding. Those are the ones that Chelsea has definite confirmations will be returning so far. She's still waiting to hear from several other individuals.
On a couple certifications, that's right. Do we generally do this in the form of a motion to accept
Yeah,
personnel actions?
Personnel and
All right,
budget adjustments are in.
all right, let's do them both together. I'll take a motion to accept personnel actions and budget adjustments amendments.
He's falling
Yeah,
asleep.
he's out.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Rick. Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye, carried. Okay,
I know.
Jessica was
Reject.
we need to approve audits. I don't know if you guys have passed the books yet, but yeah, it's a pretty heavy month. Do I have a motion to approve the audits?
So moved.
By Jason, second?
I have a couple comments, but
Okay.
we can vote. It's not going to affect the vote.
That's okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Emily. Discussion.
Looking at, and this is probably for Kathy more than, looking at the PGA membership,
For Jeff, yeah.
there's life insurance, liability insurance. Don't we cover all that as an employee?
We do not provide life insurance for our employees.
Okay,
Our pension does.
okay.
And that was.
I'm not sure what the liability insurance is for. I'm assuming it's in case I don't know, it's a customer of a golf club, I don't know.
And just for future, and this is for anyone, I don't know where to get the information, but this shelter contract that we paid out this time for four-legged creatures.
Tri-Lakes Humane Society,
Yeah,
okay.
can we get some numbers before, I know it's probably for next budget season, but
So there's a couple different ones. Do you mean to Tri-Lakes Humane Society, or do you mean the
Yeah.
last few hundred for taking care of an independent dog?
no, the 2550.
It's mandated.
But that price is too?
Where else are we gonna go? You
Yeah,
wanna open up your house, Rick?
I need to be
I know, and it's,
handcuffed by,
yeah.
you're the only game in town, but, and if do we use them?
No.
Well, yes and no.
We did.
But
It's available.
It used to be Allison, it used to be.
Right, right.
And she said no, and now it's, so now we really have no one else.
Now, we had a dog that needed, well, that went directly to the vets,
Okay.
a lost dog. That was
But then
emaciated.
it went back to Tri-Lakes, right?
Yes. So the service has been used once.
Okay.
Now, I should be smart enough to keep my mouth shut, but sometimes I'm not. We have $16,000 in our new dog hotel.
Yep.
One dog has been in there
Yep.
for less than 45 minutes.
Yep.
And it's mandated. Yeah,
I was in Rochester this past weekend and the dog place is right next to their pickleball courts.
no kidding.
And
You have an audience.
happened to be a guy there and I asked him, he said, we probably get 2 or 3 a year. And I mean, this place it's probably 3 times the size of what we have.
Yeah.
So he said, it's there if we need it.
Now, I will tell you this, comparing back to history, when we left the former system, the town and the village, you could buy a truck. Remember when Marty Perkins was? At the apex of that program, we were spending between $65,000 and $68,000 a year. We spend
For
less than a third of that now.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, that's how fast mandates can control it.
Okay, thank you.
All
I'm gonna
right.
drag it out.
By golly, Dick, you're still with us. And I think at this point for committee reports, you wanted to speak a little bit about our entrance signs.
Yeah, the three, about a month or so ago, I brought it to you guys about that there was a concern about the condition of the 3 entrance signs. And I looked at them, and I gave you a little history in an email the other day, but to repeat that, those signs, and I'm not sure the year, were built by Ron Dole, who has since retired a few years ago. And I found, when in talking to Bill Goff, Ron passed on to Laura to take care of those signs, just if anything needed. And I didn't realize this till I talked to Bill a few days ago. I've talked to him a few times, but I didn't realize till a few days ago that Laura has also retired. So now the maintenance of those has passed on to Bill. And point is, the estimate that I sent you guys the other day is for the logos, the Lake Placid logos, which are in the biggest disrepair, each of them, each of the three on the signs. So I'd like to get those fixed, updated as soon as possible. But more information I didn't give you was the fact that Bill got this from Laura. And Bill said on one of the signs, and I wrote it down and I neglected to remember which sign he's talking about, which we can find out. But he said on one of the signs, the gold leaf is deteriorating rapidly, doesn't need to be addressed right away, but it needs to be fixed. But in order to do that, he'd have to have the sign at his shop. And I didn't know this, but maybe you guys did, or some of you did, that in the past, the electric department has taken down a sign or multiple signs and taken it to either Ron's or Laura's shop to be worked on. So that's something to look at in the future. And he also stated, which I've told you guys in the past, that the white border is deteriorating too. And he mentioned that to me, and I said, I took it in, but we knew about that anyway. And I'm thinking that that's something that we could do in-house anyway, whether it be the park district or whatever. Somebody could, one of us could go, one of the town employees could go paint that white border. But again, to circle back around, I'd like to get approval to continue to have Bill Goff work on those three logos to at least get those replaced, because two of them are in really tough shape. One needs to be replaced. The third one needs to be replaced. It's not as bad, but so that's where we stand. And you see the figure. And as Derek, when he replied to me, said, we could use current CTEF funds we have in our account anyway to cover that. So what are your thoughts?
I think it's a great idea. It's embarrassing to have to buy them.
Yeah.
It's our first welcome to the community on 3 different areas. By all means, Dick, thanks for the homework you did. And let's just say, let's keep it in gear. Tell Billy, do what he's got to do on the logos. And then we'll talk about taking them down, and maybe, we have that new big area at Highway. Maybe that's an area we can do the white trim
Sure.
and the gold leaf. By all means, if Billy has time, we're lucky that we've got someone locally to do it.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I will call him tomorrow, and then as soon as I get back from the beach, I'll call him and and have him proceed and get us on the list.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Dick.
Got it.
Are there any other committee reports?
The only thing I was gonna add, which I don't know how this falls under any committee, was that Haley and I have sent the draft housing deed restrictions to Mark Schachner's office to review. So I think we did that probably 2 weeks ago. And Jackie White did get back to me and said, we'll look them over and we'll go back to you to set up a time to discuss them. And that was last week, and I never heard from them. So I did re-email them on Friday and said, still waiting for, hear from you on a time to discuss these. So they have been in a draft form sent to our attorney to review.
Give a couple examples of like what is being addressed.
What we've sent them is actually the deeds. Like, so if someone decided to enter into this is like what they would be signing. an agreement between the town of North Elba and the property
Oh,
owner.
the deed restriction.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now, does the homestead have?
Homestead has deed restrictions, yes,
Right.
but they're not the same. But
Okay.
our deed restrictions are about resale and
Okay.
these deed, and about occupancy.
Yeah.
These deed restrictions are about strictly occupancy.
Occupancy.
Yeah, so it could be a long-term rental as long as the person was a full-time resident.
And,
Sorry.
and similar to our Old Forge presentation?
Yeah, so exactly following the Old Forge presentation, except for we have this outlier question of where Old Forge does not allow a buyout. And our housing committee in general, there's a consensus that we would like to offer a buyout. And the main program, the program in Vail, does offer a buyout. So essentially, like in 10 years, if someone came along and said, I want to buy your house, but I want to use it as a vacation home, so I'm going to buy out, I want to buy out the deed restriction. And so then there's a stipulation that says you can buy it out, but you buy it out and the dollar amount 10 years later.
That's a neat thought.
You know what I mean? And
Oh,
so like, let's say that someone was given $10,000 in real time now for X percentage of their property to put it in this program. But then 10 years from now, they go to sell it and some wealthy investor wants to buy it, use it as a short-term rental or use it as a vacation home. They say, I'm gonna buy your house, but I also wanna buy the deed restriction out because I wanna use it for purposes that aren't allowed under the deed restriction. So if you allow that buyout, it's a way to generate income back into the program. And so we need to figure out legally how we state that because Old Forge doesn't do it and Vail is a different state. And so the percentage, like let's say the $10,000 is 10% of the value of the house, then it would be 10 years later, it would be 10% of the value of the house. So you don't, it's not like you're paying back $10,000, you're paying back, but you have to, the buyout is the buyout of the value at that time. And that money goes back into a pool to do it again. The reason why, which I understand why Old Forge chose not to do that, and I go back and.
Because it negates whatever.
Yeah,
your
it's-
decision
Eventually,
is.
there's nothing to restrict if
Right.
you buy it all
So
out.
like once
You've
it's,
got a fund, but
like,
no.
so the whole idea of being permanently and perpetually like a long-term resident is not necessarily true. And so I think we've talked to 3 programs now and they all have different opinions on it. And the housing committee's opinion on it right now is that it seems like if you would get more people to buy into it, if they knew at some point if an investor.
It could be reversed.
It could be reversed for the right buyer, for that buyer who had that money. But it's a plus on the side that then that money goes back into a fund
To
to then
protect
buy
that
more,
direction.
to then buy more deed restrictions. But the Old Forge's reason was, we're not gonna do all this effort and put all this into it to then potentially lose it, even though it's gaining money 10 years later.
Now, does the holder of the deed restrictions have jurisdiction, so to speak, over who they sell it to?
Yeah, there's no.
They're not turning it over to an agency and the agency negotiates the deed restriction.
The fee, no, I think it's a set formula so that there's no negotiation of what the buyout is.
Right.
Like it's, you take that current year's assessed value and it's X percentage of what it is.
Because if you're a believer in the deed restriction process, you'd probably sell it to somebody who is going to use it for personal uses versus
Exactly.
short-term rental.
But the idea behind it is that you don't want to be handcuffing people. So like, if you might get more people to buy into it, if there's this potential, like if they're worried about when they go to sell their home, that they're gonna be restricted to who they can sell it to. If there's this potential for buyout, you might get more people to buy into it.
You're buying time.
Yeah.
And then also, so housing, maybe in a public sort of way, like we're gonna have a public discussion about the homestead sort of question that was brought up, or the homestead act.
We are, Todd is gonna give us a presentation at our next work session.
Okay, so that maybe, and how public did you, like anyone can come to the work session,
Yeah,
but how, would it be just giving us a presentation, or would it be behoove the public as a whole to come?
well,
and sit down?
depending on what the presentation is, we can decide as a board to transfer that presentation and information to the town board meeting, which is 1 week later.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
it's,
your workshops are also online. right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but I guess based on that presentation, how we feel about it, we can then say, okay, Todd, can you do this again?
Okay,
At our more public, better timed.
well, then the only problem with that is like, oh, we got enough of it, fantastic. You don't have to do it again, but if people are waiting to see if it came to it was gonna happen at a board meeting, then they missed it. So,
Well, I'd be willing to bet because Lauren Yates is right there in front of us,
hmm.
that now she knows we'll be talking about a potential Homestead Act, and she'll be here.
We're been exploring it, but
Oh.
then the culmination would be a presentation to see how relevant, or it is relevant to how.
It's like an explanation.
Yeah.
Even though I've read through 2 different versions, I still can't convince myself that there's something beneficial available in New York.
Hmm.
And Todd is gonna research it with an expertise way past mine
Hmm.
in real estate, in New York real estate law.
Yeah, and it's just the way like you, Emily, and Dick have really pushed
Yeah,
to have this conversation so that people who, we had 200 plus sort of agree that sort of, as long as the conversation happens and say, hey, we put the time and energy into it because this is a legitimate sort of idea.
for sure,
And then we can kind of flesh it out, and if it works, it works, if it doesn't.
for sure. Anything else under committee reports? No, last thing I'd like to say, so this aspect of deed restrictions will come to us as one arm of the comprehensive report,
No, it's really under housing committee. Well, I guess
which
that's-
which is
yeah, I
part
guess
of,
this comprehensive plan comes together and the housing section of that gets updated. Yeah, it will be in there.
okay,
But we've
So-
done the legwork on it.
right.
So I don't know what the consultants do.
So the second part of the question is, have you chosen a consultant yet?
So I sit on that committee as like an advisor. I do not give my opinion, like I just listen.
Yeah.
And they have done interviews with 2, they had 4 Republicans, they've done interviews with 2, and then we meet next week to make a final decision next week on which way to go.
Is a consultant satisfying the needs of what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I still think that it's like a process of listening and consultants do what you pay them to do.
Yeah.
I mean, so we'll get a comprehensive plan.
Is Camoin one of them?
No.
Okay. Because that's our famous housing report.
Yeah, at one point, I think in the original, Camoin had partnered with someone to respond, but they did not partner with someone to respond.
LA group?
No, it was
No?
another group.
Okay, so our 2 local ones.
The local one now is Labella.
Oh, yeah.
And so Labella is one of the groups and the other group is SE. And SE is actually based out west, but I think they have a subsidiary somewhere in Vermont, probably in Burlington.
Okay,
And so they've done a lot of work in resort destinations,
good.
which is probably why they replied to.
And we're not under a timeline, right?
I mean, it's
I
already
mean, we're
updated.
extending, yeah, okay, okay, good.
But you just made me think of something else that had to do with comprehensive. The other thing too was that I asked Haley to look into, we talk about West Valley sidewalk a lot, but, and we did allocate ARPA funds to like move some stuff forward with
Yes,
with West Valley sidewalk. But I also asked Haley through the CFA funding, there was a smart growth grant on there that I think, because basically we're gonna spend a lot of money on the upfront of the sidewalk, right? Like, there's tons of research that has to be done about like looking at everyone's individual deed and saying, what does it say in this deed about the depth of the right of way? Is it 30 feet? Is it 20 feet? Is it 35? And then actually also pinning, marking the middle of the road and where that is on each property. There's a ton.
which
of
brings
legwork
us, I know where you're going with this.
that needs.
Bring us back to Clarkson?
Well, maybe we'll send them so I want Haley to try and find, I know we allocated money, I think it's gonna take more money than that, just to get to the fact that we can say we can do it or we can't. Or if we do it, this is where it goes. And so I asked her to look into writing a smart growth grant, and I don't think I gave her a number, maybe I did. Because so it's a sidewalk, I was like, I don't know what it's called, but I was like, it's called the sidewalk feasibility study. And I made that up, but I'm sure that's probably a thing. And so just, so that we could just like flat out get the grant, put out an RFP. We have the matching funds that we have from ARPA, so that's even better, makes the application stronger, that we have matching funds that the town put up. We put out an RFP for a sidewalk feasibility study, and I want someone to go through and actually comb every single one of those deeds, and then have a surveyor go out and pin the center of the roadway. And
County
then-
is still offering to help.
Yeah, and then if the county will, and then that's maybe part of the grant application is in-kind services from the county.
They may even have an intern this summer from a university that could help us.
Yeah, so,
That's what
and
we're-
any additional legwork that the county could do as the grant application, and obviously cuts down on the costs, that would be either from ARPA or from the grant. I don't know if the grant will be funded, but I mean, smart growth principles, we need a sidewalk there. And so I think it's a legit ask for a smart growth.
Pretty
grant,
basic, yeah. Good.
Which are also reimbursable, which
You mean you pay for it?
we would
Yeah.
pay for and pay for our money.
All right, next is persons present to be heard. I think I'll go, Fred, have you got anything on your list before I go to the screen?
Sure, I have a question.
Sure.
So in the meeting, the supporting materials for today, there was this resolution on,
Airport?
Yeah.
Department of
was
Transportation?
it the same thing you voted on tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't actually vote on it at the workshop?
No.
No,
We don't.
no,
Okay,
no.
because it's confusing, because it says,
It's the wrong dates. She put the
Okay.
wrong dates in.
okay, so the dates
So
were for
I marked
tonight.
it. Somebody else wrote it,
Right,
and so they just took an old one and wrote
okay.
the new stuff
So
on
the
it.
date should be for
So
today.
she needs
The
to
date
change
should
it.
be-
I'm gonna talk to her about it.
But we have a new employee, so we're working on it.
Yeah, it's fine, I'm just curious. So the paragraph that says I do further certify.
That's me.
Right. It says that each of the members of said town board had due notice of said meeting, and that Supervisor Derek Doty and Town Councilman Richard
It's
Preston,
wrong.
Jason Leon, Richard Cummings, and Councilwoman Emily Kilburn Colby. And then there's nothing after that. Looks like it's something
Okay.
missing.
Yeah, no, it's just that the fact that actually Chelsea did that, and generally I do them.
No, I'm just saying, I just noticed it,
So,
so maybe some
this
verbiage
is-
is missing.
No, yes, there's a lot missing. So Dick Cummings absent, or, he's not here. There's a lot missing.
Okay.
So she cut and pasted something
Yeah,
that
right,
I
but
have.
you're aware of it,
and
you're aware of it.
Yes.
Okay. So, now you mentioned something about voting on something at the next workshop, if necessary. Are you guys voting on things at workshops, or are you just discussing?
No. Do you remember what I talked about at workshop?
Well, we were saying,
Toward the end of the meeting.
it was about the building office software. I think it would be more saying that they could go ahead and start with the preliminary, whatever, what did she
I
call it?
forget what it was.
Oh, the cloud?
Yeah, but she said it was $6,000 for implementation.
Yeah.
Is that what she called it?
Well, she went back and said you were asking questions about short-term rentals, and she replied, no.
No, but what
would
would,
it cost?
It's
Oh, maybe.
implementation, transfer of data and all of that.
We just chose to not vote on it until we get further information from the code enforcement office.
Well,
Right.
the other thing that you talked about is Todd coming to the workshop. to
Oh, yeah.
explain,
No, that was different. No, this was something I thought Derek, you said, we can vote on that at the next workshop. I thought you
Oh,
said.
I
Maybe it
meant-
was the software thing?
Yeah, just to address it.
Okay, you're not taking votes at workshops.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So we'll have the people at the table and have that sort of conversation, because there's emails going back and forth,
Yeah.
but like, other than, it's better than saying.
Right. Because at the last meeting, I had advocated for not necessarily passing everything the first time it's brought up, and it was pointed out, well, we use the workshops to discuss these things, so
That
that's
is,
good, that's good. It just, I was a little concerned if things were getting voted on at the workshops.
and Fred, that's our best work session with department heads.
Right.
It is more effective than this venue.
Yeah, well, you get a lot of work done then.
Yeah.
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 But, the public is not, they're not terribly present here,
Right.
but, it's during the day, so
Sure.
it is a harder meeting for working people to get to, so.
Right.
Yeah, great.
Good.
Thanks for clarifying.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Anyone that's joining us virtually? Laura? Oh, well, we got Lauren and Laura. Anything from either of you? Alrighty then. Dick, anything further from you, pal?
No, we're good. Nope. See you. I'll see you guys whenever next week and we'll go from there.
We don't, we're going to executive session.
Yeah. You want
Yeah.
to email me that link,
Do that.
please?
Lauren, I see you put in the chat, you had questions, but you want to hold them.
See that?
It just came up on the screen. Do you want to go now or you want to call me? Is it confidential?
She just said she'd wait.
She might not have a mic.
Yeah. Maybe she lost her voice from the smoke and dust.
She-
But who's making
I
the
hope not,
motion?
Lauren. I'm just kidding.
All right, I'll leave that alone.
No mic.
No mic.
No, like,
Oh, all right.
One sec,
One second.
One sec.
It's like old school AOL instant messenger.
yeah. Have an emotion to, and this, to go and take second session.
We can
Right.
make a second for Lauren.
Oh,
Do you want to click on the
Questions.
on the text box, chat box?
Did you see the cartoon today? I don't know where it was,
yeah.
but somebody buying.
Not confidential, just a lot of questions for Derek in particular
I can't,
that I don't have time to ask right now.
can't bring these up. The computers are down.
Thanks for not taking up our time, Lauren.
All right, you know how to track me down. Thank you, Lauren. And thank you, Laura, for always attending. So far, you're our leading participant.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, at this point, we're in need of an executive session to discuss personnel. So I'd like a motion to go into executive session.
Smooth.
Jason, second by Rick. All in favor? Aye. Passed. I don't anticipate a decision process, so I won't be reporting after. Thanks, Fred. Thanks, kiddo.
Sure. Okay.
I'll try to be more cognizant of
Do you want to hit?
resolutions to.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do too many things at once.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter because
I
I
mean-
noticed it